Well, welcome back again to Cassimotive, and in this video what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you 4 lessons that I have learned from VYBZ KARTEL. Now, many of you will know I spend literally hours and hours every single day reading books, studying interviews, reading articles, reading research on individuals who've started from nothing and have achieved something in their life, have achieved success, have got to the top of what they do. And VYBZ KARTEL is just one of the most fascinating people for me to study, and I'd encourage you to delve into his background because his story is just mad. He's just crazy an individual, and he shared some things that I made observations about and lessons that I thought would be really useful for you in your life, that I thought would be something that might be able to add some value into your life. So let's go through 4 lessons that I have learned from him, and I really hope that they can serve you and add some value into your life, can help you become a higher, fuller expression of yourself. If you obviously agree with some of these, or you've already applied some of these in your life, comment below, send me a message, subscribe to my channel Cassimotive on YouTube. I'm really keen to hear from you guys and what your thoughts are on this. So let's go through these 4 lessons that I have learned. The first lesson that I thought might serve you and add some value to you is to understand that your gift cannot be contained by bars, by prison, by your background. It cannot be contained by your lifestyle. It cannot be contained by the role models around you. I have come to the conclusion after studying people that many of us don't really understand that when you have a gift, when you have a passion, when you have a vision, when you have a dream, that it cannot be cancelled out by whether you decide to pursue it or not. I've shared with you guys on many occasions, if you've watched or followed any of my other videos, that the richest place on this planet is not where I thought it was. The richest place on this planet, I thought, was maybe the gold mines of South America. Then I maybe thought perhaps it's the diamond mines of South Africa. But again, I was wrong. Then I thought perhaps it's because of the Iraq war and the Iran war and all this war that was happening, I thought that it may be the oil fields of Iraq or Iran. But once again, I discovered that I was wrong. You see, the richest place on this planet is down the road from you, and you probably didn't even know it. It's a graveyard. And the reason why that is because in the graveyard, you will find people who had solutions to things like cancer, to problems, to the climate change issues that we have today. You'll find poetry, you'll find music, you will find inventions, you will find businesses that were taken, you will find dreams, ideas that were never manifested. Do you know what we call that wealth in the cemetery? We call it potential. In other words, people take all the potential that they have with them to the graveyard, because your death, even death, cannot cancel out a gift. Let me share with you what I mean by this. VYBZ KARTEL is currently in prison due to various things that I'm not going to get into, but he's currently in prison. And yet, in this year, he's already produced 3 music videos, which have already got millions of views. Now, that just tells you as to what extent your gift can still, or your vision or your dream can still not be cancelled out by the circumstances of your life. I remember when I was studying Nelson Mandela extensively, one of the things that I found out about Nelson Mandela is that Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. He spent 27 years in prison, and yet he still managed to accomplish his dream. Meaning, he had this vision, this dream that he had, and even prison could not contain it. So many of you out there have a dream, you have a desire, you have a goal, and what's happening at the moment is you continue talking about your circumstances, you continue talking about your background, you continue talking about the lack of experience, the lack of resources, the lack of the fact that you don't have privilege, you don't have the right connections. You talk about all these things that you lack, and you still are not understanding that the only person who can accomplish what you have inside of you is you. That is, look, I say to people all the time that your dream or your gift or even the vision you might have might be the same as somebody else, but only you can manifest it in the way that you were supposed to. You're unique. Your experiences are unique. The way you go about the world is unique. Let me share with you an example of what I mean by this. Say, for example, you took somebody like Michael Jackson and you took somebody like Prince. They both essentially had the same gift. Their gift was music. They were gifted lyrically, and so you might think, yeah, well, Kassim, hold on a minute. They did the same thing, but in reality, did they? They did the same thing, but the way it manifested itself was in a completely different way. The way Michael Jackson produced music and the way in which he saw the world was completely different to the way that Prince saw the world and the way in which he manifested his gift. And so my point to you is, you may be saying, yeah, but Kassim, yeah, but my gift is what? I just love people. Yes, you may love people, but the way in which you love people is not going to be in the same way that other people love people. You may be saying, yeah, but Kassim, my passion is computing. Yes, your passion may be computing, but look at, for example, somebody like Steve Jobs. He loved computers. Look at the way in which he manifested his gift in comparison to Bill Gates, in comparison to the guy who started LinkedIn, in comparison to Mark Zuckerberg, who started Facebook. They all liked IT and technology, and yet the way they manifested their gift was in a completely different way. And so I would share with you that if you have a dream, if you have a desire, if you have a goal, if you have a vision, if you have a gift, manifest it. Just start. Just get going. Just do what you can with what you've got. And there is a biblical saying that says that your gift will make room for you. Meaning that if you start doing it, if you start manifesting it, and I'm going to get into this in the last point that I'm going to talk about, that all of a sudden opportunities are going to start appearing that you didn't even think would appear. While still in prison, VYBZ KARTEL still makes music. And the reason why we are watching videos, I can go on YouTube and watch a video that he produced whilst he's still in prison, is because he still had to write music when he was not still had to, but he still wrote music even though he's in prison. And that all of a sudden, people hearing it, other prison guards hearing it, his fellow prisoners hearing it. That is how opportunities all of a sudden start presenting themselves for people to say, well, let's maybe do a video. You may be still in prison, but we can release some music. Do you see what I'm saying by this? And I learned that from VYBZ KARTEL, and I think it's a lesson that many of us don't really take advantage of, and we don't realize that if we don't manifest our dream, if we don't use what we've been given and our uniqueness, we basically just make the graveyard even richer. We become what I refer to as generational thieves, because we are essentially stealing and taking all the greatness that we had and the uniqueness that we could have manifested. We take it to the graveyard, and our children and our grandchildren and their kids miss out on all the goodness that we could have done. That may be fighting or standing for something. It may be creating a piece of work. It may be starting a business. It may be putting a financial security or heritage wall around your entire family that nothing can ever get through. Whatever it is for you, manifest it, go after it, run after it, gain some momentum, apply it. You may not even be remembered for being rich. You may not be remembered for being famous, but at least you can die not having made the graveyard even richer. Die empty. The next lesson that I learned from VYBZ KARTEL, which I thought might be of interest to you, is that you have to understand that if your character and your values are strong, then what happens around you becomes irrelevant. You know, one of the things that becomes very apparent in when you study VYBZ KARTEL's interviews is that everybody essentially wants to know, how can you write those lyrics? How can you suggest these things? How can you say such ridiculous things? Well, you're a role model. You know, young Jamaicans are looking at you and they're thinking, oh, this is how I'm supposed to treat women. This is how people are supposed to be. This is the lifestyle we're supposed to live. And he very clearly states many times that it is not about the lyrics that he writes, but it is rather the fact that it's a responsibility of the teachers, of the role models that the children have, of their parents, that if they instill in their children the correct values, his music can just be enjoyed as entertainment, and it is not really a representation of what people's values are. And I think more than ever before, we live in a world today where I believe that we really need to get a grip on what our values are. We need to really get a grip on what we stand for. We live in a world which I call the era of experimentation. Essentially, if you look throughout history, the way the world has worked is that there are certain things that have been set in stone. For example, the role of a man and a woman has been set in stone all throughout history. The man has typically been the provider, and the woman has been the support and has helped the man and has done all the great things around the house and knows much more about the way the house works and the kids than the man does. Okay. But, you know, there's certain things about genders, for example, all throughout history, essentially, you know, things like pronouns, about transgender, gay, straight, all this kind of stuff was never really a thing. Nobody talked about it. It wasn't even an issue. Things to do with race all throughout history really haven't really been tackled. But today we're in an era where everything is just being blown up. Everything is being challenged. Everything is being questioned. What is right? What's feminism? What is gender equality? What can you say to people and what can't you say? The dress code. What are you allowed to dress like and what you're not allowed to dress like? What about pay? What can you be paid and what can't you be paid? Equality. Everything is being challenged today. Everything. Every value, every rule, every tradition, every belief is being unwrapped and is being questioned and is being dissected. And it's important for you to understand, okay, in amongst all of this, where do you stand? What are your values? What do you believe? Because the world today, we live in a world of phenomenons. We live in a world of trends where it's very easy to get trapped up in thinking that the latest thing is, you know, like Bitcoin is a thing that is a reality. You know, today we live in a world where you can pay $4.99 over two months and all of a sudden you can become successful. But the reality is that is not how you become successful. And you have to be so stable in your beliefs, in your principles, in your values, that you understand that all these trends and all these phenomenons are not really a representation of what the actual truth is. Does that make sense what I mean by that? And so for you, you know, if I asked you, what do you value? What do you, if I came to you and I said to you, what do you value? Tell me your top 5 values. If I came to you and told you, what do you stand for? What do you believe in? Can you honestly say, Cass, I could literally, if you came to my house right now, I will tell you my top 5 values without thinking about it. I'll tell you exactly what I stand for. I'll tell you exactly what I'm defending. I'll tell you exactly what I'm fighting for right now. I'll tell you exactly where I stand on politics. I'll tell you where I stand on relationships. I'll tell you exactly where I stand on equality, feminism, on character. All of these things, Kaz, I've thought about them, I've observed life, I've studied people, I've observed history, and honestly, Kaz, I can genuinely say to you, I can tell you exactly where I stand on this. I don't care what's happening around the world. I don't care what ISIS says. I don't care what the government say. I don't care about Donald Trump. I know what the truth is. I've researched it. I've looked at the truth. I've looked at different perspectives. I've asked for people's opinions. I've looked at my opinions. I've looked at my belief system. And I have come up with a conclusion, a philosophy that I truly believe about different areas of life. Can you honestly say that that will be the truth? Because if that is not your truth, then what is? Where are you getting your values from? And and the other thing that I wanted to share with you, which I thought would be useful for you to get, that I learned from VYBZ KARTEL, is that actually sometimes you may need to change your values to align with the kind of person you want to become. Let me give you why I say this. When I was growing up, I grew up on a council estate, and everybody around me essentially just wanted to be normal. My parents wanted to be normal, my family wanted to be normal, my school, they just wanted us to be just so normal. And it was extremely bizarre to me when I started studying successful people, and all of them then all of a sudden started telling me that I should be seeking greatness. Because now I had a contradiction. In one sense, I wanted to be successful, and all the people who I defined to be successful, which were people who were happy, people who were fulfilled, people who had financial security, people who could live the lifestyle that they wanted, people who were able to give back to causes that they believed in, people who were doing something that they loved, right? All these people who I defined as to be success and I aspired to be like were telling me completely different things to the things that people who are and where I'd been brought up was telling me. And one of the things that they told me is that I'm going to have to raise my standard to being that of seeking greatness. And I thought, yeah, but nobody's ever told me that. My parents have never, in my entire life, not one time has any of my parents ever told me that I should seek greatness. My nannies never told me, my aunties never told me, school never told me. None of my friends ever told me that I should be seeking greatness. So now I'm in a tug of war. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? This doesn't make sense. What's all this? And I came to the conclusion after I studied life, after I studied history, psychology, child development, I studied sociology, I studied economics, I studied world politics, that I came to the conclusion that essentially I would have to change some of the things that I had been taught. And one of those things is in order to be all that I was capable of, I had to change one of my values from valuing just being normal to valuing being great. And that changed my entire life. In fact, the reason why you are seeing this video is because every day I'm like, how can I achieve greatness in my life? How can I push the edges of my capacity? How can I serve people? Because one of the things that I learned is in order to achieve greatness, you have to in some way serve people, whether that may be using a product like Steve Jobs used the iPhone, it may be using a service, which like you've got someone like Netflix, you know, that's a service that we provide. It may be through entertainment, so somebody like, I don't know, Beyonce using her music to entertain us. But essentially, in some way, I have to use my life, use my skills, use my experience, use my gift in some way to help other people become their highest and fullest expression of themselves. And I was like, holy shit, nobody's ever told me this, and I had to change this. And so my second point that I wanted to add on this is that you may need to change some of the things that you've been told by your parents, some of your values, to align with the kind of person you wanted to become. Because the reason I had to change my values, that particular value, was because when I died, I wanted that when I die, at my funeral, at my eulogy, I wanted people to stand up and say, Kassim tried to help as many people as he could in his lifetime. When I die, I want people to say, do you know what? He messed up, he didn't get things right all the time, he wasn't perfect, but do you know what? He gave it a go. He tried. He went out there and tried to help as many people. That is what I want people to say at my funeral. So that meant I had to change what my belief system and my values to align with that, so that now my behavior can be a reflection of my values. Does that make, I hope that kind of makes sense what I mean by that. It makes sense in my head. I don't know whether it's come across as to you by what I mean by that, but I hope you've got that. So that's the next thing that I wanted to share with you. The third thing that I wanted to share with you that I hope adds some value to you is this. Art, poetry, music, clothing are really all a mirror of society. if you look at our society, many people don't understand that if you look at things like trends, what people are wearing, if you look at what the music that people are listening to, that's really a reflection of the way people feel. It is a mirror of the inside. When artists produce songs, it is because that's a mirror of how they're perceiving the world to be. When people produce poetry, that's because usually that is how they perceive the world to be. People would not buy your poetry if they could not connect to it. There is a reason why I was actually really fascinated by Donald Trump. And part of the reason why I was fascinated with Donald Trump is that I said to myself, Donald Trump, as much as he has money and has connections, you have to get elected. A certain percentage of people have to essentially say, we agree with some of the things that you're saying in order to allow you to become president. Somebody, as much as you can do ballots, one, whatever, a certain percentage of people voted Donald Trump to become the president of the United States. And so my question was, so that basically means that there is, whether I like it or not, there is a percentage of people who believe that Donald Trump is a reflection of them. That Donald Trump, they actually agree with what Donald Trump says, and they agree with the way, with the philosophy that Donald Trump has, and the vision that Donald Trump has. And I thought that's quite interesting. So is this the word? So basically, when I was watching a lot of the analysis around it, it was interesting to observe that many people now are looking for a strong leader. We're not looking for a leader who is friendly and who's ethical. We're looking for a leader like Hitler, essentially. Somebody who has conviction, somebody who is strong, somebody who knows exactly what he wants, exactly what they stand for, and will not be deterred by anybody. And I thought, that's interesting. So is that the way some people feel? That they are looking for somebody who can give them direction. They're looking for somebody who can show them the light in the darkness that they're going through. And I thought, interesting. And even today, when you look at the music, it's very interesting for me to observe the types of music that people are very much into. If you go on like YouTube, it was earlier on this morning, I was looking at trends, and I was looking at the trends that were happening. And it's interesting to observe that many of the trends that are happening are around things that are quite deep. They're not even things to do with like flashy money or anything like that. They're around really like deep subjects, really like complex subjects. And I thought, interesting. So that means that there is a huge percentage of people in the UK who are looking for a sense of purpose, a sense of mission, a sense of understanding. They just want to get a wider view of what's happening. And I thought, interesting, because I've never really thought about it like that. And what I would share with you is you've got to start understanding that the world around you really is a reflection of what is happening. And you have to decide for yourself whether you are prepared to follow that world, whether you are prepared to conform to that world, or whether you are going to step away from the rest of that world. Because even for me, as I mentioned earlier on, I decided that I wanted to live an extraordinary life. I decided deliberately that I wanted to achieve greatness in my life. I didn't think I was better than anybody. I don't think that I want to be in competition with anybody. I just wanted to push to the edges of my capacity. I wanted to do all that I could possibly do in my lifetime based on what I have inside of me. That's what I wanted to do. And so because of that, I then had to realize I'm going to have to walk away from the rest of society. I'm going to have to do different things than people are doing. I'm going to have to believe different things than people believe. I'm going to have to value things that the rest of society essentially don't value. Many times I'm going to have to have belief systems that contradict many of the people who I love. And it happens a lot. A lot of the time, most people don't agree with me. I clash almost every single day with people, because people tell me things that they've never really thought about, and I'm like, I don't really agree with that. See, I sit down every day and jot down things and think about things and research things and ask people what their perspective. If you know me personally, you will know that one of the things that people get annoyed about me for is I'm constantly asking people's opinion and stuff. I want to know, what do you think about gun crime? What do you think about racism? What do you think about politics? What do you think about feminism? What do you think about success? How do you define success? What do you think about people who have a lot of money and are not giving it away? I'm so curious all the time. It drives people mad. And so I have a very different perspective to the world than a lot of people, because I need to get, in order for me to share messages with you and to be able to inspire you in the way in which I believe, it means that I have to have a holistic point of view. I have to see the world from literally as many points of views as possible, because I don't want to be biased. I decided that I wanted to go up against the news. See, you may not even know this, but the reason why I started Cassimotive was because I was so pissed off with every day going on the news. It drove me mad every day going on the news, okay? I switch on television, and every time I watch the news, all I see is death, killing, destruction, famine, just absolute horrible stuff. And I was like, why don't they use some of the things that have happened and put a positive spin on them? And that's why when you watch my videos, I thought, right, I've got to do something about this. See, I never wanted to do these videos. This wasn't my intention. I didn't want to do videos. I don't get paid for it. I was believe it or not, I am actually somebody who never wanted to speak my opinion. I'm as hard as it is for you to probably believe this, I'm actually a very shy person. I prefer to be alone than to be in a crowd. And that may sound weird to you watching this video right now, but that's the truth. I genuinely love being by myself. I love myself. I'm okay just being me. Yeah, of course I love going out and spending time with people, but I would rather be by myself. And so you have to understand that me doing these videos was not my intention. I dreamt of a Nando's life. Go Nando's maybe 4 times in a month, go to the cinema, go out partying, every other weekend, go on 3 or 4 holidays every year, have a house, family. That was a dream that I had for myself. I did not dream of doing these videos. And so you have to understand that many times, if you truly want to live a life that is true to you, you will have to walk away from society. And the way in which you observe what society is like is look around at you, look at the music that's being produced, look at what people are wearing, look at the language that people are using, look at what the news is saying, look at the kinds of programs that people are watching. For me, I'm like, what kind, it was interesting. Recently, I did a video on the Jeremy Kyle show being cancelled, and it was interesting because I said I did a video about it, and I said that whether we like it or not, an average TV show lasts for about 8 years, give or take, sometime. Okay, the Jeremy Kyle show ran for 14 years, and it was still getting millions of views. And I asked myself, why the hell would because the thing is, you have to understand, in order for TV to have a program on TV, it has to reach a certain amount of people. You have to be popular. People have to watch it. Otherwise, they remove it off television. And I thought to myself, that must mean there are millions of people every single week who tune in to watch a Jeremy Kyle show. And I thought, what does that say then? That says that people, because we only watch things that is a reflection of us, or that we can connect with, or that we think is of entertainment to us in some way. And you have to understand that the Jeremy Kyle show is full of dysfunction, is full of hatred, fighting, conflict. And I thought, what does that say about us as people? I know that's a deep conversation and a deep lesson, but I wanted to share it with you. The last thing that I wanted to share with you, and I briefly mentioned and touched on this earlier on, is to start doing what you do for the fun of it. Many of you see me here doing these videos, and you probably think, wow, Cassim just wants attention. Cassim just, he wants to You know, I don't know what you think, because really for me it doesn't really matter. But I don't do these videos for really. I do them for two reasons. Number one, I was so angry with the news that I had to do them, and secondly, I find them fun. I love sharing with you. I love doing research and sharing. You know, like researching VYBZ KARTEL. Last night I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning researching him, reading articles about him, reading his antics that he got up to with killing people, studying his videos online, reading his lyrics, and it was fascinating for me. So I love it, and I think that a lot of us, we have passions, we have dreams, we have visions, but we never start on them because many times we're like, well, how am I going to make money? Well, how am I going to be popular? Well, what if no one watches them? Well, look at my videos. Hardly anyone watches my videos. Probably maybe, sometimes I think maybe like 5 people watch my videos. But it doesn't matter. I do it because I love it. I do it because it's fun. I do it because for me, it makes me feel good, and it helps me feel as though I've got out of me what I needed to do. And for you, you know, you may have something. It may be painting. You may be wanting to write a book. You know, I mean, so many people whose life, right, it should be a movie. And I'm like, well, why don't you start writing a book? And they're like, well, I don't have a publisher. No one will read my story. And I'm like, so write it for yourself. Read the story write your own biography for yourself. Just go on Microsoft Word. Start writing about your life. Start writing what's happened to you, what your story is, what have you gone through. I think you would be shocked. You know, I read a book recently by a guy called Viktor Frankl. And Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And it was interesting because he basically, in the book, when he begins the book, he talks about the fact that he never wanted his name to be published. He never wanted, in fact, he didn't even want the book to be published. He only wrote it for himself. And a friend of his was interested in the book, and then he told him that he should publish it, and he agreed. After loads of persistence, he agreed to publish it. But one of the things that he said is he wanted to publish it not with his name, because he didn't think anyone would be interested in his story anyway. He just didn't think anything of it. Man's Search for Meaning has been translated in over 30 different languages, right? It was originally by a German man. The guy was German, I believe he was. German? Yeah, I think he was German or Austrian or something like that. And I thought to myself, that man who believed that his story would be nothing, he's all of a sudden sold millions of copies of his book. Literally, I cannot tell you the amount of people who've been changed by that book, right? And even me, that book changed the way I saw everything. And so what I'm saying to you is, just start off by just do what you do. You know, if you are a boxer and you love boxing, just box. Box to the best of your ability. You know, VYBZ KARTEL, he was being asked, how did you get into music? And he said, in all honesty, I started off just like everybody else. I just loved music. We just messed around and we played on the decks. You know, a lot of footballers who I study and sports people, when I study them, and I'm like, and they're being interviewed or they're writing their autobiographies, many of them just started off because they loved what they did. David Beckham started off playing football because everybody played football. He just loved it. Right? And then his passion grew, and then his desire to succeed grew, and then his standard raised, and, you know, and so on happened. But it all started off with just doing what he loved. Look, if you were somebody who loves working with kids, just start off. Give advice on YouTube, write articles online, whatever you need to do. But just start off just for the fun of it. And I believe that if you will start just doing whatever it is that you do for the fun of it, don't think about the millions, don't think about inspiring 1 billion people, don't think about how you're going to be famous. Just start with where you're at. Start and just gain momentum. Just do it for yourself. There is something which I read, which I will be talking about in a video that I'm due to write soon. Which was a statement that was said by somebody, and let me find this statement that I want to share with you that I think will be of some value. I've lost it now. But essentially, I don't have the quote here with me, but essentially what the quote was, it said that, and I'm paraphrasing what it said that the surest way to become successful in life is to start, oh, that was it. The surest way to become a successful writer is to write books and poetry that you yourself would read. And if you wouldn't do it for you, if you want to make music but you wouldn't do it for you, then it's pointless trying to do it. And meaning that do it for yourself. Listen, produce music that you yourself would listen to. Create art that you yourself would be interested in. Because when you start to do that, that is how it begins to lead you. Your passion, your drive, your ambition, that is really what attracts people to you. So I hope that those are the lessons that I hope can add some value to you. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts? I'm always keen to hear from you guys. So send me a message and or write comment below. Share this with somebody who you think it will be useful for, and continue seeking to be your highest, fullest expression of yourself. Bye for now.